All right, hello and welcome to our first ever podcast. I am Joe McNeil, the Spiritual Growth Coordinator here at Valley Mills Christian Church.
I'm Ezra Davis, the Student Minister here at Valley Mills.
And I'm Mark Stair, the Worship Minister here at Valley Mills Christian Church.
And together we are the Three Amigos. I'm just kidding. That's probably copyrighted. Yeah, so don't do that. But we're going to try and churn these out weekly, and we're just here to talk for about a half hour or so about random topics. We're going to keep it very loose, keep it very fresh.
Loosey-goosey, baby.
And we're just going to go from there. So how are you guys doing today? You guys feeling good?
Feeling good.
Good.
Had my coffee, you know.
Good.
Yeah.
Yep. So we've got a fifth service Sunday coming up, and we've got a big picnic afterwards, so that's pretty cool. Here, it's going to be a 10 o'clock service, and we're going to have some blended music, sort of. So instead of doing like the 9 a.m. traditional or the 10:45 contemporary, we're actually kind of blending a bunch of different things in there. Maybe we can talk about that first. How important is music in church services?
Good.
Yeah, that's a very
We'll let the
good
worship
topic there.
We'll
serve that over to you.
Cue the worship leader, eh?
I guess, yeah, since that's in my realm here, as the worship minister, I can talk about that for a little bit. I think historically music has moved people to action. And essentially, I think that's what worship is. The worship music is, what that's doing is emboldening people to take action in their faith, or strengthen it in a way. In the Civil War, they had kids that played drums to, keep the unit together, to keep them moving forward, and it was kind of this sense of morale that just it emboldened them to, take on whatever task was at hand, to keep fighting on. And I think that there is power in music. I think it's just being a human. And when we hear music or we hear a beat, it makes us want to sometimes start dancing. And it's different. Music has an effect on people. And I think when that's it's not really, these aren't my own words, but when music is paired with the power of the gospel, I think that there's a lot of potential for change and a call to action that I think is very important in the life of the church. So I don't know if you guys want to touch on that at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to, like I said, I don't, like you guys know that I don't know much about music and how blending and everything else, but I could definitely relate to just being how music touches people. I remember back in high school, or when you watch athletes come out of the tunnel, or when you watch somebody do something, or regardless of what it is, they have pump up music, or they have warm up music, or they have different music that relates to them, and it causes them to get focused, and it causes them to either subdue. I remember when I was pregnant with Kens. But when Danielle was
something you want to tell us?
Hold on. But when Danielle was pregnant with Kensington, one of the big things that I was told was like, you need to sing to her stomach, and I can carry a tune. My family has sang over the years, but
I want to see what tests they did to prove
right.
It's an actual thing. I'm not doubting it for a second. I just think it's funny where it's like if you sing to a pregnant belly, your baby's going to be 80% smarter. I'm like, what test did they make?
What I started realizing is like I thought it was completely bogus at first. Because I was like, this is crap,
it's plants, right?
Yeah, it's like plants. Like if you blare Mozart out, and they're going to grow differently than hardcore music. But what I started doing, and it was so cool, because at the third trimester of a baby's life in the womb, they start hearing noises and stuff. So like I can't Like if I start singing out of the blue, I'll probably turn into this flat, like I go flat, like because I can't. It's just me. But if I sing along with Spotify or something like that, I can match pitch and everything else. Well, what I started doing was I get right next to her stomach, and I was able to sing, and she was able to interact with that. So like from that to just not the ambiance. That's my word for today. I love ambiance. That's why I laughed in the meeting today.
Thanks, Robin.
I know, right? When I think of the ambiance or the worship feel, music has a huge part in how people react to that.
Yeah.
So
well, it definitely invokes certain feelings, certain emotions. You look at like little children when we've all probably seen some funny videos of some kids that are like jamming and shaking their booty around for some music that they hear on the TV or the radio or whatever. But it's funny how even at an early age, it's a language that everyone seems to be able to understand. It crosses like ethnicities and country lines and state lines and everything else. Yeah. Like music is a language that I feel like God invented that we all kind of know secretly. And this is kind of borderline pseudoscience here, but there's a guy named Masaru Emoto, and I'm probably butchering that name, but he was a Japanese author and entrepreneur who said that human consciousness has an effect at a molecular level. So what he did was, this kind of just brought me to the topic of when you were talking about like singing to the belly and to plants and stuff like that. He did this experiment where he would talk to water, and he would like write labels on water bottles that say like "I love you" or "I hate you," stuff like that. And he would take all these different samples and water samples, and he would look at it at like a crystal level, like the microscopic level of these waters. And again, this is like pseudoscience, and I'm not trying to like
why I haven't heard
propagate
of this before.
it. But he does this, and like he looks at stuff at a molecular level, and the stuff that was like talked to negatively looks deteriorated, and the stuff that like has been positive influence, that has like classical music played to it, they'll put like headphones on the water bottle and it'll play this music. Wow. And it actually like looked beautiful. If you look this up, if you look up, all I did was do a quick search of Dr. Emoto, Emoto, water experiment, and it'll pull up a bunch of stuff. And again, I'm not prescribing this. Isn't like a biblical doctor in the Valley Mills Christian Church or anything. But it's really interesting because think about how much of the percent of our body is water, how much of the percent of the planet is water, and it's almost like an eerie coincidence that God has like made water an important thing. And obviously, there's so many different references to water, like Christ being the living water. Water is an important part of that, but beyond that, what he's positing here is that our energy, our whatever we're putting in there, whether it's praise to God, whether it's affirming a brother, has way more of an impact just than the memory, but in our actual molecular structure. So I just thought that was kind of wild.
That's cool.
A long time ago at a youth thing, I did like this whole sermon and message on Dr. Emoto. It just reminded me because you were talking about it, but check that out. It's pretty wild. Yeah. They played like rock music to it, or like really heavy, heavy metal, and it looked all distorted and messed up, and it's funny because like I'm not necessarily a prescriber of someone who's like, well, music's gonna make you do harmful things to you. So, but I mean, maybe it does. Maybe it does. I don't know. If it can inspire you to worship, if it can inspire you to feel things, to break a levee inside your mind or your soul, then why can't it also influence you to do something bad or negative too? So we have to be careful with what we're looking to. So yeah, back on the topic of church being, or music being important in church. So I think it is very important, and what we're trying to do this coming Sunday is Mark has planned out to do something for the 9 a.m. traditionalists who like, just the organ, piano, the vocals, the old hymns, that kind of stuff, which definitely, we still feel has a place here. But then also the kids get to go up and sing one of their fun songs, and then the contemporary band's going to come up and play some songs too. So I think that's kind of neat.
Yeah. You want to go from here? Yeah.
Yeah. So we can. I mean, that's a good cutting point.
Yep.
Where are we at? I mean, some of that was goofy on the front. Yeah. All this gets fixed in post.
12 minutes.
No.
Okay. So we still got plenty of time.
So why don't we cut to service in general? Like, why do we serve?
Okay. You want to lead in?
Sure.
Just
So, like Joe alluded to, we this Sunday we are doing our Serve Sunday, and it's something that we've started this year actually, and we put it to where we want to be the hands and feet of Christ. So the reason why that's one of the many facets of the reason why we do these Serve Sundays, and serve is just a huge part of what we do as not only Valley Mills DNA, but what we do as Christians. So the question arises: why do we serve? Why do we do what we do? And like I said, it's a part of our DNA, and I believe that if and another facet to that, and this is just my opinion, I believe that if we do serve, if we do put ourselves out there, it's vulnerable. So when we go to the Serve Sunday, we're doing donations for pet rescue. And to be honest with you guys, I was as soon as that came across my mind, I was like, what are we doing? Like
why pets?
Why pets? Like I love my dogs at home, but like why are we doing this? And then I had another thought. What if through our service, what if through something that we're doing allows us to reach a person that is working in the Humane Society or working inside the pet rescue? What if we go and we're delivering or whatever it might be?
Yeah.
And we come along wearing our Valley Mills shirts and and are a light to those people. And then I had a whole different
what's something that other people care about,
right?
And I'll be 100% honest with you. I felt the exact same way. I'm a very cynical, crotchety old man. I say that a lot, but I'm like, pets, really? This is what we're doing,
Right?
But no, check this out. Like, how much benefit do people get from the companionship of pets? Like, God made everything the way that He made it, and the domestication of animals is something that happened, a long time ago. But it's something that's always brought comfort to people. So if we're helping out in that area, in that sense, I think that's all right. I'm not trying to say we should baptize all the dogs and cats that come through or anything. But no, I think I need to let my heart grow a little bit and say, hey, this is a good thing for some people.
And you don't like. I keep saying all the time. I'm sorry, but I was told about 4 or 5 years ago, make sure your ripple counts. And at first I didn't know what that was. So if we make a ripple here, collecting dog food or cat food or kitty litter or whatever we collect, that starts throwing into the water. And,
you have no idea.
Yeah, we have no clue where that ripple is going to, who that ripple is going to affect, and that's what my mindset completely switched. I was like, Ezra, you need to just ask God for forgiveness and everything else, because I was like, this is the wrong way to act and to think, but it just, that service element is that ripple effect. We're starting Sunday as a drop in the water, and where that ripple falls, I have no clue. We have no clue, but we're making a ripple.
Yeah,
and that's one of the reasons why I believe we do serve, is making that ripple and doing that. So,
Mark, how do you feel about pets?
I love pets, and I had kind of the same views on that you guys had initially with the whole serving or donating things to the pets, and kind of had thoughts in my head about how I guess that ties into ministry to people, but it does make sense when we care about things that other people care about. It shows them that, and I guess in turn it shows them that we care about them.
Yeah, I mean, is it any different than showing up to, a youth sports game
No,
that you may
right.
not necessarily
Yeah.
care about, but you're doing it to support
Right.
what other people like.
And also, I think the things that God calls us to, sometimes we don't, I guess, figure out right then and there what the purpose behind it is. I think, let's go into one example from the Bible when God told Moses to go and tell Pharaoh to let his people go. I don't think
my people
sing it. I could probably go lower than you.
Ooh.
Just kidding.
The challenge accepted. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, I'm sure Moses had a lot of doubts in his head about a ton of things, and it even tells us about some of his doubts. He had lack of self-confidence. I mean, Pharaoh was the ruler of basically the
Really,
whole
the world at
is-
that point.
At
Yeah.
that point, yeah. So, but I think when we're faithful to God and we continue in whatever we're called to, that God has big plans and He can work all things for good. So, whether it's liberating people from a tyrannous leader or serving and donating things to pets, then so be it.
Tyrannist leader was my nickname in high school, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Well, I think just to kind of piggyback off it, and we'll let Joe talk. Is we have to let go and let God do His thing. You know what I mean? It's so many times we get in the way of what God can do and think that we can do it all,
Right.
and we have to have a reign. And that's where my initial, to be quite honest with you, that's where my initial thought was. I was like, really? Like, and then God humbles you like normally. And then that's where I became going, okay, well, I need to get away, get out of the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
service obviously is a huge important thing that a lot of churches should be doing, and hopefully the motive is correct. I have unfortunately seen some churches that have done things for more of a photo opportunity than an actual opportunity to serve or bless people. And I firmly believe that what we're doing here is a great thing in a lot of the different services that we do. And I kind of wanted to kind of deviate just a little bit from what we were talking about there to talk about how we can serve as a person, because this comes up a lot, obviously, in church. If you've never heard of it, there's an 80-20 principle where 20% of the people are doing 80% of the work. That happens, a lot, and I'm not saying it happens here necessarily, but it's always hard to find, the workers are few. It's hard to get people up and moving. But hopefully what we can do is encourage people with service projects like this. We're hosting it here. They're already at church. It's something that they can do and contribute to. And sometimes it's as easy as just bringing an item. Most people go to the grocery store once or twice a week. They can pick a little something up. We're doing See You at the Pole tomorrow morning, and we're bringing some canned goods as a secondary motive for that, just to help out with some homeless ministry there. But what we want to encourage is that it doesn't have to be a 7 or 8 hour a week commitment or something you have to do for the rest of your life, but serve in the ways that you can and grow. Challenge yourself to grow and take steps. Bit by bit, little bit by little bit. Maybe it's bringing a canned food this week. Maybe next week you're on the greeter team. Maybe next week after that you buy someone's meal at McDonald's or something that you're there. Yeah. So the more that you can do, the more that you can push yourself and grow as a person to serve. This is what God wants us to do. And sometimes we're in a mode where we can serve pretty big, and sometimes we're in a mode where we need to be served too. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with either way. And we just want to also, encourage people to know that it's not the amount you give. It's, the purpose and the reason and the growth. You look at the woman who gave just a couple of coins, and, people wanted to scoff, like, oh, look how little she's giving. But meanwhile, these Pharisees were dumping in buckets full of money, and it's like, well, that's wrong. Look at their mentality. They just want to be seen and all this other stuff. So get in there and serve. Do what you can to help out wherever you can. My favorite thing to do is behind the scenes, of course. anything you can do to help, whether it's bringing in a canned food. No one knows you brought that canned food in. You don't have to make a big showy production about it. You can just bring it in, and there it is. Time. I saw that you did that. You brought that giant bag of dog food in. Some of it was eaten over.
Well, I like the. Other than Captain Crunch dog food, Old Roy dog food, I like to eat in the morning.
Some cereals kind of taste the same as dog
That's what
food,
gave me my girlish figure.
Yeah? Well, I admire that. That's great. What do you guys think about anything more you want to add about service, about some encouragement there to some of the folks at home?
I like what you said about serving. I can't. This is my words. Serving where you're at, going above and beyond. That's cool. That's cool. But if that's not sustainable for you, find out what is sustainable for you and go with that. Both on and be receptive of other gifts coming towards you. There was a he's no longer in our lives now, not because he's passed away, just because of just differences.
Sure.
But there's a guy that kind of influenced Danielle and I, and he told us anytime that we would go out to eat or anything like that, he would, not every time, but quite a bit, he would throw down some money and pay for a meal, and I fought him on it because that's how I grew up. I'm like, no, I want to, I want to pay my own way.
What an affront to your ego, right?
Right. That was almost the first couple times he did it, it was kind of almost oh, you're nice. About the fourth or fifth time that he did it, I was like, okay, dude, let me buy my own stuff. And he says to me, don't block the blessing. Don't block what God could be giving to you, whether it be a meal, whether it be dog food, whether it be whatever it might be. Don't block that. Don't expect it, but because that kind of hinders us in a different way. But don't block that blessing. And on the flip side of that is also serve where you're at. Like you said, if it's bringing a can or encouraging or buying a meal or just talking to somebody. I feel like sometimes we get into this realm of we put this block where we can't talk to anybody.
Right.
Joe might have X, Y, and Z going on in his life. He really needs somebody just to buy him a Mio or whatever you drink. I know you don't drink coffee, but just sit down with him and just talk with him and listen. And if he asks insight, give it to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's service as well. So be looking for those things and don't block the blessing.
We've all felt that way, right? We've all
absolutely.
We've all been there on both sides of things, and we've also been in a place where we're trying to give, and then we kind of feel bad that we're not giving as much as we could. But you should never feel bad about giving. Right. You should never feel bad about what you can do.
Mm-hmm. Right. I also think the service is not an end in itself. I think ultimately it's the relational aspect of it that is really impactful. Because when you approach someone or you offer to, buy someone's groceries or buy them a meal, you're also telling them that, hey, I see you and you matter. I'm stepping into your life and just basically present. Because a lot of times, especially nowadays, we aren't present in every moment that we're with people. I mean, even here at work, we work pretty close in proximity to one another. Joe and we share a room, and Ezra is just right down the hall.
At church, not at home.
Church, right.
That'd be fun.
This is not
Mark and I are roommates.
I don't have a purple wall in my home. But yet, sometimes we could go a whole day with, not really speaking that much at all. Sometimes I have my headphones in, or Joe's just in, and then he's out, or he's working on projects like videos or whatever. And sometimes, even I see it get-togethers with anyone, or even out eating at a restaurant, you see people on their phones a lot, and these people aren't present all the time. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but I think when you show yourself to be present in someone else's life, that means a whole lot to them. So.
Yeah. You have
So-
to put yourself out there.
I'm gonna pull a Joe. You ready?
Sure.
So this has fascinated me since I read it back in college. But there was a study back in, I think, 2009-ish, 2010-ish, that our brains, when you reach adolescence to about adulthood, actually all adults. So from adolescence on, your brain works in a 7 to 2 minute intervals. So what that means is 7 minutes you're on, and it's not the same for everybody. 7 minutes you're on, like you're focused, you're on point, and then 2 minutes you're off, or 3 minutes you're off. So it works in the TV commercials have gone, like the TV, like normal programming have studied this and made sure of this. Now Netflix and Hulu and all that run around.
Well, which came first, the chicken or the egg? I feel like maybe commercials are responsible for
right.
people's short attention span.
So I say all that to say this is like to engage somebody. Now what they've seen in that study is that's if people are locked in and are not doing anything and everything else. That's why, the invention of the smartphone, even though I love my smartphone and it connects me with a lot of different facets, there's times where I've been locked in and it takes my wife or my dad or whoever to come up to me and say, hey Ezra, hey over here, before I go like this. And I feel like that there's a lot of times where we are apprehensive about approaching somebody at the grocery store, at a restaurant or whatever, and we go, oh, they're on their phone, I'm not going to disturb them. But that's probably what brings them out of that stupor of locked in their phone.
I think we've all got sunk into that that terrible Facebook thing where you're just looking and scrolling, and the next thing you know, it's a half an hour later, and you're like, what am I doing?
Mine is Twitter. I Twitter stalk people.
There you go.
Yeah. So,
so I think that there's actually kind of a theme, if you think about it, for a lot of the things that we've been talking about today, and it's just kind of exerting the influence that you can, and hopefully it's a positive influence, whether you're serving, whether you're listening to music and being influenced in that way. But we're all people that are all dealing with various different things at different times, and we all need each other, we need community, we need to be serving and taking in at the same time. It's this nice little ebb and flow that happens, and I've been challenged recently a lot with, and I think part of it's the sermon series that we've been doing here with the questions and answers, and it's really just challenging your way of labeling things, and challenging your way of like shooting yourself down when you don't really need to. Maybe you don't serve as much as somebody else, but that's fine. Maybe you do get sad sometimes. That's okay. That's a normal part of human physiology. But I think that I sense like this underlying theme that kind of just happens lately with a lot of different things that we've been kind of brought attention to as far as staff or as far as people. And I'm trying to wrap it in. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but no, I think that in this world, in the way that things work, we have to be really careful about how we label things and how we make more of an issue out of things that aren't that way. And this is probably a topic for another day to an extent, but I feel like just some of the things we've talked about today with the music and how it influences us, like that's part of taking care of yourself and how it's going to affect your mood. I know there's plenty of times where I've listened to depressing music and I've been depressed. No one who's in a sad, depressing mood playing depressing music is going to get out of depressing mood, right? It's like, oh, woe is me. I think I'll listen to these funeral dirges and stay in this pit. No, but if you want to get out of that, you play some happy, upbeat music, or sometimes service. giving, spending time with other people, that can help get you out of that funk too. So maybe that's a topic for another day, like I said, but it's just something neat that I sense as an underlying theme, and I just want people to know that they're okay. They're all right.
Well, I mean, we're all imperfect.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just because we're on this podcast and we're talking about this doesn't mean that we don't all struggle with this.
Yeah, we're just three dudes. We're not
I almost said a DC Talk quote.
anything amazing other than maybe Ezra. I'm just kidding.
okay. But we are imperfect.
Yeah.
And everybody's imperfect. And it would be a total disservice to the people that are listening to this and the people that talk to us every single day to think otherwise. So, I mean, we all have struggles. We all have things. And I think that's why... I think that's why we struggle with self-doubt, whatever you might have, our struggles and depression and everything else, and music and being around people and serving. And I think for many that brings people out of it. You know what I mean? So,
final thoughts for you, Mark?
I think everything you guys have said is good. And when it all comes down to it, it's the people that matter. It really, like I said, it's when we do service, it's not that we're doing service just to say we did service. It's to serve with the people that we're serving in mind. Or when we suggest songs or have songs to people or for people to sing to or sing with, it's not to just play the songs or whatever. It's to just help them or a way in serving them to help them get out of a funk or whatever it is. Because music is moving, and when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, it's the people that matter, and it's the relational aspect that matters. And I think that sums up what ministry is. And so,
Yeah, nice. Well, thanks for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed this. We're going to try and make this a regular thing. And if you were annoyed by anything whatsoever, please make sure you go and tell Ezra about it Sunday morning, because he loves to hear about it.
Yes, I do.
So anyway, God bless, and thanks for listening, guys.
See you guys.
The next thing you know, it's a half an hour
Right.
later, and you're like, what am I doing?
Right.